Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another morning coffee talks. Man, I had this thought about, why is it that, you know, women think that quote unquote street freedom, right, is the way to go versus being in a relationship. And it's just something I had a thought about because I just keep seeing it on my For You page. And I think that it's just an illusion. I think that being in the streets, being free, quote unquote, is an illusion. And I think that, women start to realize that after they leave a good relationship. And so it's like she thought, or women think, that choosing freedom um, is her choosing to leave the relationship. Like no rules, no answering to anyone. It's just vibes, it's attention, it's unlimited options. But in the end, we constantly see those videos. We constantly see, the women get on the camera and they saying, "Oh man, I'm just realizing it's not really what I thought. It's not the freedom um, that I thought I was gonna receive, and really, it's just the streets in disguise, right? And with those streets, it's not gonna give them, it's not giving women what they thought they would get by being out there. And I just find it so interesting because, again, maybe there is women who like, yeah, I'm totally fine, still being out here. But from what I see and from the conversation I hear, many women wish they were just back in a relationship, right? And that's not to quote unquote say with that same person they may have left. Some, yeah, wish they would have stayed or whatnot and just, stuck it through. But many women, they do want to consistently be in a relationship. But I like to say that there's a big difference between relationship freedom and quote unquote street freedom, right? And I feel that one gives you purpose, peace, and a partnership, and the other one, from what I've seen, gives you chaos with some glitter on top, right? It's just shiny. It's a shiny object syndrome. And I think that a lot of women only realize that after, they leave something that might have been real. So when I was thinking about this concept between, relationship freedom and street freedom, I would say that when it comes to relationship freedom, right, it's definitely about safety, growth, and, being fully known in a relationship. It's definitely about building something with someone. And, you know, when you in that relationship, you can be soft, you can be vulnerable, you can be supported. But when it comes to street freedom, it's like, for me, it's very unpredictable, right? In the moment, it feels free, like, oh, I don't want to answer nobody. I can do what I want to do. I can dress how I want to dress. But oftentimes, from what I've noticed, it comes with a lot of hidden costs, right? Emotional debt, confusion, fake highs, and things of that nature. So I feel like you're not really free if you're constantly questioning your worth just to feel seen. And so, yeah, again, it's just an illusion. You know, it can look like being single or being in the streets can look like, oh, I got more options. I have more fun. I feel more powerful, being single. But those options don't always mean value, right? Just because you out there, you feel this way. Just because you getting your phone hit up in the DMs or you constantly your phone buzz because you like, oh man, all these dudes that hit me up, don't mean you being pursued with purpose, right? It could just be, hey, I'm pursuing you just for sex, or I'm pursuing you just for a good time for the night. But you're gonna quickly realize that um, quality is rare out here, man. And it's not about how many you want; it's about who's willing to keep you, right? You, I feel like there's a lot of people again who could pursue you, but that don't mean they actual options. And I think that's where the confusion is. And and so after a while, the mentality sets in that a lot of women get lonely. And I just want to say this: when you online, you posing with cute pictures, drinks with the girls, and you're doing all these captions. One of the captions I see a lot is like, oh, I'm unbothered, right? But I think that behind all the screens and behind all the highlight reels and stuff like that on these social media, you know, what's not getting posted is the quiet nights, right? The DMs that really go nowhere. The longing for someone to be consistent with you. Because the thing about attention can be loud, but for love, man, it's quiet, it's steady, and it constantly shows up. And the thing about it is, when you're in a real relationship, you can be vulnerable, right? At some level, as a woman, you can fall apart. And when those situations happen, you can know that a lot of times you probably won't be judged by the person who actually with you in that relationship, because they understand, right? They've seen you at your highs, they've seen you at your lows. But when you're in a single, if you fall apart with somebody you don't know, they're gonna leave you where you are. They're gonna leave you apart. They're not gonna help you put yourself back together. And here's the other crazy thing, like, right, about like vulnerability. When you're in the streets, you constantly have to wear a mask, right? You constantly got to be, quote unquote, that woman, that constantly shows up a certain way, right? You can't take your mask off. You can't flip the switch off, right? You constantly got to show up because it's new people every time, and I can see that being exhausting, especially you know when all you everybody want from you a certain image, right? But you can't show up without being that person over and over and over and over and over, right? You don't get a break. And it's kind of like an emotional hangover. Again, at first, the streets feel so good when you first get it, because for some reason it feels like freedom, but eventually it's like, yeah, you can hook up with all these people, but it gets kind of like, it gets low, right? The tension start to feel cheap versus, oh, I'm getting all this, like it's like people paying for your attention a lot, but it's like it's really watered down, it's really cheap. And then like the thrills and stuff, I feel like it turns to anxiety, right? And eventually, again, for what I've seen is you realize that you kind of gave up your peace, like you traded it in for chaos. And that's when the painful wake up comes, right? And that's when that thought process comes, like, especially for men, it's like, yeah, she didn't really leave you for freedom. She, the woman left you because she didn't really understand what she had. And again, this don't go for all scenarios. There are some dudes out there who, POS, right? But I think that when social media real good at making things look glamorized, right? But that's only 30 seconds, 10 seconds, a snapshot on a reel, right? A snapshot on an Instagram short. And it looks really exciting. But again, you can't, you have to get away from the instant gratification. And you have to get away from thinking that a relationship that's structured is restriction. I'm going to say that again. A relationship that's structured feels like restriction. You have to get away from that, right? We have to get away from thinking that loyalty is limiting, right? We have to get away from thinking that consistency is boring, right? And it's just, I think at some point, we're going to get to a point where women are going to get away from that initial high, right? And it's sad because from what I see is when it's too late, it's too late, right? And they get in the streets and they realize that it didn't really free them, right? It kind of isolated them. And this is what the sad part is, because then they get older and they still think they can do what they did when they was younger, but they can't. And so with them leaving chasing freedom, they didn't really respect what they had, man. And again, this isn't for all women, but a lot of women, and you see it all the time, man. And this is why I do push for marriage. This is why I do preach for healthy relationships. And I do preach for, both parties, setting aside their ego and really figuring it out with a plan on how they want to do their relationships. But again, many women are gonna go through this lesson and learn, man. And but I say all that to say, for me, real freedom isn't about always doing what you want, right? It's about doing what brings you peace, purpose, and fulfillment. And sometimes the most freeing things in life is being in a healthy relationship with the right person. And so I just think that it's not always greener on the other side. But for me, it don't seem like the streets is real freedom. It seems like being in a relationship gives you freedom. That's what it seems like to me. So, man, listen, drop a comment below. Subscribe to the Husband Code if it's your first time. If you've been watching for a while, subscribe. And if you got any value from this video, hit the like button. And until next time, I appreciate y'all. Much love. Peace.